Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedom and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedom.
A state court in Arizona dismisses charges against a preacher that was defended by Liberty Counsel. I am Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Shawn Akers, the vice president of Middle Eastern Affairs for Liberty Counsel. Shawn, this is in Tempe City Court in Tempe, Arizona, dismissing a charge against an evangelist, Doru Nemtu, and he is from Romania. Interesting story. We'll talk about how this plays into this irony of the situation. But Liberty Counsel defended him. He was targeted and harassed for street witnessing, where he was sharing the gospel. Tempe police, they've been harassing him for a number of years. Among other discrimination, he was forbidden from using an amplifier on the street while the bars and the nightclubs are blaring amplified noise. So they charged him. Our attorney was there. Our local counsel was there, along with our Liberty Counsel attorney, Harry Mahat, who also is Romanian as well as a United States citizen. And he was born there, but now he's obviously a citizen here in the United States. He was there, and ultimately they dropped the charges.
You know, doesn't it really accentuate we've talked in the past about this current fight against religion in the United States, the fact that someone from Romania who has a history in Romania of religious persecution, comes to the freest nation in the history of history and is charged for speaking publicly on the streets about his religion. Matt, it's a little hard to even fathom.
Yeah, Doru actually grew up in communist Romania, as did Harry Mahat, our senior litigation counsel for Liberty Counsel. And Doru saw his dad jailed and beaten for preaching the gospel. And in fact, his dad still bears the physical scars today of the beatings that he experienced in communist Romania. And now, you know, it's interesting that Liberty Counsel's senior litigation counsel, Harry Mahat, who represented Doru in court, he was also born and he was raised in communist Romania, and he lived there until 1989. He became to the United States in 1990. His first day of freedom was on Christmas Day, December 25, 1989, when the dictator Nicolae Ceausescu was overthrown and executed on Christmas Day. And it was in his hometown, Harry Mahat's hometown, where the revolution actually began. And it began because the communists arrested a pastor for preaching off of the authorized script. They didn't like it, so they arrested him. Instead of his people going home, they said, just enough is enough. You know, we're tired of the government stopping our pastors from preaching. And so they stayed out in front of his home praying. And eventually the rest of the city gathered. And eventually they called upon God, saying they needed God, and they were asking for liberty. The Ceausescu dictator sent in the tanks, and the military started firing. That didn't stop the gatherings. It happened in other parts of Romania. He called the people together at the capital. They did the same thing. He didn't have the ability to control them. They captured him. They ultimately tried him, convicted him, and executed him on Christmas Day. And all of that happened in 1 week. Harry's first day of freedom was on Christmas Day, December 25, 1989. So he's out now in this city of Tempe, Arizona, defending another person who was raised in communist Romania, whose father still bears the scars of the beatings when he was beaten by the communists for preaching the gospel in Romania. This guy now is charged criminally for doing the same thing in America.
You know, it's staggering to think with the irony of that and the beauty and the poetry of the way this worked out with Mr. Mahat being the counsel for this. It's hard to fathom, though, that Doru was one beating away from receiving the same treatment in the United States that his father received in Romania. It's really difficult for us to put that into context.
Well,
Matt.
the irony is that Doru's dad still bears the scars of being beaten by the communists for preaching the gospel in Romania. Harry's dad Harry Mahat, Senior Litigation Counsel for Liberty Counsel, also was arrested in Romania during the communist regime for preaching the gospel. In fact, Harry has a story one time where the missionaries smuggled in Bibles, and so the communists got wind of it. So in the middle of the night, the communist Secret Service with their German Shepherd dogs that were trained to sniff out contraband Bibles banged on the door, woke up the family. Harry's in bed. His father goes to the door. His mom goes to the kitchen where the Bibles are. And they're actually stacked there in the middle of the kitchen, but they're not quite level. And so she grabs an item, a flat thing, a piece of wood, and puts it on top of them. It's not quite straight, but, you know, in communism, tables don't look like they do here in America anyway. And so she throws a blanket over it. It looks like a little table, a little awkward, but it's a table. And then so what she starts to do is to make some coffee that was also smuggled in by the missionaries. And, of course, the nice coffee smell moves through the house, and they're not used to nice coffee smells. So she brings them in to the kitchen, and she gives them some coffee and puts it down on the top of the table while the Communist Secret Service and their dogs are there, and the Bibles are under the table. They're enjoying the smuggled coffee from the missionaries. They're having a good time with the Secret Service that are searching out these contraband Bibles that were smuggled to them by the missionaries. And eventually they leave. They have a happy time drinking this nice coffee that they don't normally get, and they never find the smuggled Bibles.
I love it. You know, Matt, when you talk to the people from those countries, when you talk to one of my favorites are the interviews done with Holocaust survivors. One of the frightening things that they tell you is how at stage by stage by stage toward totalitarian dictatorship, they continually told themselves, this won't happen here. This won't happen to us. It's not going to happen. They'll stop. You know, we're valuable members of society, and they're not going to increase this persecution. They'll stop now that they've gotten so far, and it never stopped, Matt.
No, it never does. And Christianity is the antithesis of communism and repressive, tyrannous regimes. So that's why in former Soviet Union, in the former communist Romania and these other repressive regimes, what do they target? They go after the pastors, the churches, the people of faith, because that is an antithesis. When Jesus says, you know, you will be set free and you'll have that freedom of the gospel, that gives you that internal freedom, but it also gives you that external freedom as well.
That's
and
right.
so that ultimately has an impact on the culture. Well, you know, Harry has come to the United States, and he looked at the United States as this beacon of hope, that there are people that just come and worship freely in these big mega churches here in America. In communism, it was like the shining lighthouse that people wanted to come to. And so they were so pleased to be able to come to America in 1990. And Harry had a very lucrative position in a law firm, but really felt he needed to give his life to something that had meaning, and ultimately came to Liberty Counsel. He's been with us for a number of years. And so it's amazing for him to see where we have slipped since even he came here in 1990 to where we are today, to where he has to now go to Arizona to defend a Romanian pastor for preaching the gospel on the street.
But it's also very poetic and can point something out to us that a man from Romania comes to the United States, and the thing that he chooses as his profession, because he can rise and do anything he wants to here, he becomes a lawyer here, and now he takes the two things that he found so valuable was the Constitution of the United States and the Judeo-Christian worldview, and he is an attorney who's representing folks to stop in the United States what he came from in his own country. How poetic is that, Matt? That Romania would send us one of its best to work with Liberty Counsel to protect the United States.
Isn't that amazing? It is amazing irony, and God is a God of irony. You know, you can look at something and look at it as apparent tragedy, or it can be an incredible opportunity, and God can turn apparent tragedy into incredible opportunity. It just needs you, one person, to stand in the gap and say, God, use me. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. Liberty Counsel is advancing religious freedom, the sanctity of human life, and the family through litigation, through education, and through policy. If we weren't here to help defend this pastor, he would have been just simply drug around by the system. may have even had to spend some time in jail or pay a fine for simply preaching. Now we have put a stop to that. And if it weren't for you and your prayers and support, we wouldn't be able to send Harry and other attorneys to go defend these individuals around the country. Go to Liberty Counsel's website today, lc.org. You can sign up for our Liberty Alert email, also our Grassroots Action Activist email. And remember to give Liberty Counsel your regular gifts at lc.org.
You have been listening to Faith and Freedom with Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedom. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.